this video, I'll be showing you how to use Ballerina with GitHub Actions. GitHub Actions is a way of executing some custom logic in GitHub. So these custom logic or actions can be combined together to create workflows. And if you have specific events that you generate in GitHub, these can be used to trigger specific workflows that can be executed in GitHub itself. So you don't have to have your own applications or your deployment environment servers to execute these, but rather these will be executed in GitHub itself. So we'll see how Ballerina can be used in this environment. So using Ballerina, we can do CI/CD actions. So we can build our source code, test them, and deploy them to certain locations. For example, deploying them into a Kubernetes cluster or to AWS Lambda and so on. So in this walkthrough, I'll be showing you how to do three specific things. I'll be showing you how to deploy an application to Kubernetes, and also how to do a AWS Lambda deployment, and also how to do a module release into Ballerina Central. Let's go through these three scenarios. I'll start off with the Kubernetes scenario. So first of all, this is the location where the Ballerina action, GitHub action lives. So if you go to github.com, Ballerina platform, GitHub actions repo, this is where you can find the implementation for the GitHub action that represents the Ballerina CLI. So here there are some samples on how the usage happens. So when you want to create an action based on Ballerina, you will use this value saying this is a location where the Ballerina GitHub action lives, and also you will give arguments specifying which action to be executed in the Ballerina command. For example, you can give build, push, and so on. So now, knowing where our action lives, let's see how to use that. So I have a sample repo. So here, and at the moment my workflow is empty. So I'm just going to create actions in creating a new workflow. Let's see how that is done. So I'll be dragging this line and creating a new action. For that, I have to give the location of the action. So I'll give our Ballerina action, so which will use the latest version. You can also version this, where you can also have previous version Ballerina commands as well. So I'll be using the latest one. And when you give that, you will be able to give other arguments as well. So for that, our first one would be, I'll be building the code that I have in this repo. So I'll be doing a build command, and for the label we'll just say build. And also GitHub has this secrets concept, where you can give any confidential values in this UI, and they will be encrypted and stored in GitHub, and they will be made available as environment variables when the action is running. So I have already added two secrets that those are the two values of Docker username, Docker password. Those are actually my username, password in Docker Hub. So in the code, in the Ballerina code, I have given Kubernetes annotations in saying I should push the Docker image to a registry, and also to create the Kubernetes artifacts. Let me quickly show you the code. So this is the code that has been used. So I have the Kubernetes annotation saying Okay, this is the deployment, and I should push the Docker image to Docker Hub, giving the username and password, where I'm reading it from the environment variables. And also I have dynamically generated the image name as well, where I'm combining the username and a specific name to the image, and also somewhat of a randomized value in order to make sure that for each commit or deployment I'll have a new image name. This is required when I want to redeploy this the Docker image and the whole Kubernetes deployment each time the commit is done and a new deployment should happen. So for that to happen, I need to have a new image generated each time. So in order to do that, I have used a value that is available in GitHub Actions, say in the GitHub hash value for the commit. So that makes sure I'll have a new image name each time. So which will make sure my Kubernetes deployment will be refreshed each time I do a commit. So that's for those settings. And also I have Kubernetes service annotation saying I need a load balancer service type in order to have that will give me a publicly accessible IP to access this service. So this is the source, and so here in GitHub Action I have given the username and password. So this action definition is done. Let's finish that. So after that the Kubernetes artifacts will be generated in that specific directory. And now what we have to do is we have to do a kubectl deploy or an apply in order to push it to a specific Kubernetes cluster. So for that also there is a GitHub action for that. So there's one of the actions from AWS that wraps the kubectl command. So we'll be using that. And we'll be creating a new action from that. So for this, our arguments would be the apply command and the location of the YAML files. So which would be this. And also, if you look at the documentation, it asks for the kube config data. That's our kubectl configuration data, which has the credentials and so on, which points to a specific Kubernetes cluster. So you have to give this as that content from the whole file as a base64 encoded string. So you can use this command to do that. So we'll create this new secret, and let's get our value as well. I'm copying this to my clipboard. Okay, so I have added that value as well. Now the kubectl command is configured with the kube config data. and we can finish the definition of that action. Now our workflow is done. So if we save this and do a commit, this workflow is configured to run on a code push. So there are other states where you can use this. So for now we have configured in a way that for every push this workflow will be run. So we'll do a commit direct to the master branch, and if we go to the actions tab, it's scheduled to be run. And you can see the workflow just started running and the first action is in progress. So in this action, the Ballerina build command will run. It will build build our source code and also generate the Docker image from that and push it into the Docker registry. So in our case, it will be sent to Docker Hub. So this step has succeeded now. Let's look at the log. You can see here it has compiled the source and has generated the Docker image and everything. And at this point, this action is finished. Now it was taken up by the second command, which was the kubectl command, and that has also executed successfully. So the Kubernetes cluster I have configured is based in Azure. So let's see the status of that. So you see the cluster is running. You can see our new deployment is deployed just now. You can see if there are any services. Yes, we can see a service is also deployed and the external IP is this. Okay, so we can see that the app is deployed, the service is deployed, and we get the output. So now we can see by updating the code how this deployment will automatically happen. So let's do a simple change to the code. John, I'll be changed to hello Jack, and I'll do a commit and a push. And this action should automatically trigger the workflow here in this repo. So let's see if that happened. So yeah, you see now there's a new workflow instance running, and this should eventually build the code again and take in the changes and deploy it again to the Kubernetes cluster, and finally it should be available in the endpoint we were given earlier. So momentarily we should be able to see the changes from this location. So still it has the old one. So after the deployment is finished, we should be able to see the new message. So again, it was successfully built and also successfully deployed as well. So now if we refresh our service, soon we should be able to see the new message. Yes, so now you saw that the code was updated and it was deployed back into the Kubernetes cluster, and we can see the new message appearing here. So we saw now how easy it was to do CI/CD with GitHub Actions with Ballerina by just doing a git commit and a push. We can have the whole workflow running and the test running and deploy into a target cluster. Now let's see how we can do the same thing with an AWS Lambda. So I already have a Lambda example that I have created earlier at this location. So there I have basically configured to do the same build to this to the source code I have here. So there also it's a simple function that will just return hello Ballerina. And what I have done is I have built the code from the first action, which will build the AWS Lambda artifact, the zip file. And in the second GitHub action, there's an AWS action for its CLI. There I am executing the Lambda update function code action and giving the function name as hello. And giving the location of the general zip. So for this, you have to provide the AWS access key and the secret key as secret values here. So from your own account. So I have configured it here already. So after you do that, the Lambda will be directly uploaded and deployed in AWS Lambda. So let's see how that also happens. So let's first see whether the Lambda function is executing properly. Yes, so here we can see that the existing Lambda function is executing properly and returning the message. Now let's try to update the function and see whether we can automatically deploy it using our workflow. So here we will just change the code here to update the message. And we'll commit and push the change. So with this, our workflow should be triggered. Yes, here we can see it's waiting to be run. First, the Ballerina build is running to build the source code and to build the Lambda artifacts. And now the GitHub action is running for the AWS deploy for the Lambda. Okay, so it has successfully ended. Now let's see whether the function actually got updated. Yes, so we can see here the message is updated here. That means the code was updated and deployed using our workflow. Now for our final demonstration, let's look at how to deploy a Ballerina module to Ballerina Central using the GitHub Actions workflows. For this, we'll be using the Microsoft Azure CV module. So here, let's check how the workflow is defined here. For this also we use the same Ballerina GitHub action, but here the argument or the command is a Ballerina push, and for this we are passing some new environment variables. So we are passing in the Ballerina Central Access Token. So this is the same access token you have in your Ballerina configuration in your file system. So here you are passing it as an environment variable. So I have added that as a secret here, and also the Azure CV key. So this is the API key to access the remote API. This is used in our unit tests for the module, because when you are doing a Ballerina push, it will first build the module, run the tests, and finally it will push the module to Ballerina Central. So it's a single action for the workflow, and let's see how we can trigger this and deploy this module using an update or a change to our code or the configuration. So here we will simply upgrade the version of the module. So for each update to the module, when you want to deploy it to Ballerina Central, you have to upgrade the version as well. So we will simply do a version upgrade, and that itself will be identified as a change in the module and should trigger the workflow. So we have committed the change and pushed it. Now the workflow should be triggered. So now the Ballerina push command is executing. So here the source will be built, the test would be run, and finally the module will be pushed to Ballerina Central. Let's look at the log, and here we can see the source was built, the tests were run, and finally the push was done to Central. So we can verify this here. So you can see here it shows the module was just pushed a few seconds ago and is updated in Ballerina Central with the new version. So in this session we have shown you how easily we can use Ballerina with GitHub Actions in creating these workflows and automating our actions mainly for our CI/CD requirements.